This one is different from the others. The morning drift, the replay, the scroll, those are quiet departures, subtle, easy to miss. The ego's slipping away without fanfare, while the observer self looks the other way. This one arrives with energy. Someone said something, or did something, or held a position so obviously, demonstrably, almost offensively incorrect that something in me shifted. It ignited. Not slowly, not gradually, immediately. The way a match ignites, One moment, nothing, the next, flame. And I was gone. Not into numbness, no, not into the low hum of the scroll or the anxious loop of the replay, no, into something that felt nothing like unconsciousness because it felt so completely electrically alive. The ego self had found its favorite territory. Certainty. Yeah, I want to be honest about something before I go further. Sometimes people are wrong. Actually wrong. Factually wrong. Morally wrong. Sometimes what was said was unkind or inaccurate or unfair or all three at the same time simultaneously. This observer self, my observer self, has no interest in pretending otherwise. This isn't about manufacturing tolerance for things that genuinely deserve to be challenged. No, this isn't spiritual bypassing dressed up in the language of presence. No. So let me be precise about what I'm actually describing. I'm describing what the certainty of someone else's wrongness does to my own consciousness. Because here's what I've noticed. The moment my ego self locks onto they are wrong, something happens that has nothing to do with the wrongness itself. A kind of crystallization occurs, The ego self organizes itself around the wrongness the way iron filings, situate themselves around a magnet. Suddenly everything is clear. Suddenly there are no sides. Suddenly I know exactly where I stand and exactly what the situation requires. And that clarity feels extraordinary. My ego self is rarely this certain, rarely this organized, rarely this alive. Most of the time it's managing ambiguity and complexity and the exhausting middle ground of human experience, But give it a clear opponent, somebody to attack, and it becomes something else entirely. Focused, sharp, energized. The inner narrator, my roommate, is no longer anxious or scattered or running in pointless loops. No, it's building a case. It's gathering and marshaling evidence, constructing arguments of very elegant precision, finding every example that supports my position and quietly setting aside everything that complicates it. I wasn't just thinking they were wrong. I was enjoying knowing they were wrong. And that enjoyment, that specific electricity, is what keeps me inside the dream long after the original wrongness has passed. Because my ego self discovered something early and never forgot it. Opposition gives it shape. Conflict makes it feel real. The clearer the enemy, even a small one, even a trivial one, even somebody wrong about something that will matter to nobody in 6 months, the clearer the enemy, the more solid and defined and justified my ego self becomes. And solid and defined and justified feels from the inside almost exactly like being alive. Almost. But my observer self, when it eventually stepped forward, noticed something that my ego self had been very careful not to look at directly. You see, while I was constructing my case, while I was assembling my evidence and rehearsing my arguments and experiencing the clean satisfaction of being extremely correct, I had stopped being present to anything else. The actual moment I was in, gone. The people around me, gone. The quality of the air, the light, the simple fact of being here and alive in this particular instant, gone, 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 gone. I had traded the present moment for the electric pleasure of being right. And the present moment, as always, has simply waited without judgment, without impatience, without keeping score, but it had waited alone. There's something else that my observer self noticed. The person I was so certain was wrong, I had stopped seeing them entirely. Not literally. I could describe them, of course. I knew their position. I had cataloged their errors with a considerable precision that only being right can afford. But I had stopped seeing them as a consciousness, as awareness, as an awareness navigating its own complexities. You know, I didn't see them as being as genuinely convinced of their own position as I was of mine. As someone who, from inside their own experience, probably felt equally certain that I was the one who was wrong. I had turned them into a position, dehumanized them, a collection of errors requiring correction. Data. My ego self's oldest and most efficient trick, reducing a person to the argument they represent so the argument can be engaged without the inconvenience of the person's full humanity getting in the way. Yep, I've done it. And in doing so, I had made a real conversation impossible. Not just with them, with myself. Because the observer self, my observer self, cannot fully inhabit a consciousness that has organized itself around opposition. There's no room. The ego self, inflated with certainty, fills every available space. So the return from this requires something the others don't. Honesty about the pleasure. Because if I pretend the certainty didn't feel good, if I perform the return without acknowledging what I'm actually giving up, then I'm not really returning. I'm just my ego adopting the language of the observer while remaining exactly where I am. So the first honest thing is this. I was enjoying being right. Not proud of it necessarily, but honest about it. My observer self doesn't require me to be ashamed of my ego, not my ego's appetites. It just requires me to see them clearly. I was enjoying it, and it cost me the present moment. And the present moment is worth more than being right. And the last sentence there. I've had to arrive at it again and again and again. It doesn't become automatic. The ego self, my ego self, makes a genuinely compelling case for the value of correctness every single time. It's persuasive. It has evidence. It has righteous energy behind it. And every time my observer self has to quietly, firmly, without drama, choose differently. Not because the other person was right. Not because the wrongness didn't matter, but because I matter more to myself than the argument does. Because my observer self knows that the present moment contains everything and the argument contains only itself. Because my observer self, once it steps forward, recognizes immediately that no position, however correct, however important, however satisfying to defend, is worth trading consciousness for. One breath. One breath. Oh, maybe two. My ego is still certain, still vibrating with its case, but no longer running the show. Okay, so my observer self is back in the room. The present moment exactly as it always is. Patient, open, holding nothing against me for the time I spent away building arguments in an empty courtroom. I'm back. And the strange thing, the thing worth sitting with, is that from here, if the wrongness still matters, I can actually address it clearly, directly, without the ego self's electricity distorting everything. My ego. My observer self, my observer, me, engaging with what's real rather than the ego performing for an audience of one, me. That's not weakness. That's the only kind of strength worth having. Today, somebody's going to be wrong. Maybe spectacularly wrong. Maybe trivially. Maybe in a way that genuinely matters and deserves a response. And when the ignition happens, when I get fired up, when my ego self lights up with the clean electricity of certainty, righteousness, I want to pause just long enough to notice one thing. How good it feels. Not to indulge in it. Not to follow it into the dream or into the drift. Just to see it honestly. Oh, there's the pleasure of being right. Because the moment I can see it clearly, the moment my observer self names what my ego is actually after, the electricity changes quality. And in that small loss of authority, that slight loosening of my ego's grip, the present moment steps quietly back in. No fanfare, just there it is, carrying everything worth having. The argument was never going to give me that. It never does. If something in this episode found you somewhere you recognize, you're already awake enough to know it. That recognition, that quiet sense of yes, I know that place, is your observer self identifying itself, confirming that it was here the entire time, watching, waiting, ready to step forward the moment you gave it your attention. And that's not nothing. That's everything. If you want to go further, if the territory we've been exploring feels like somewhere worth spending more time, the frequency arc is where this work lives. is a gathering place built for those ready to raise their frequency and remember their connection to something larger than the ego self's daily drama. It's not a system, it's not a doctrine. It's just a space where authentic frequency does the work that argument and explanation cannot. You'll find it at the Frequency Arc, and I'll leave the details in the notes for this episode. And just so you know, there are more episodes in this series, each one a different drift, each one the same 3 movements, each one an ordinary moment revealing something extraordinary about the consciousness experiencing it. Come back for the next one, or find another episode that calls to you, or another podcast that calls to you. The present moment will be there when you arrive. It always is.